Alrighty, guys, welcome to the Health Yeah podcast. I am going to be joined by Stacey Little, PA, and I'm very excited to talk to her about, everything. We're going to talk about weight loss. We're going to talk about Ozempic, tirzepatide, the GLP-1s, GIP injections. We're going to talk about hormone health. We're going to talk about diet. We're going to talk about fitness. We're going to talk about all of it. So, Stacey, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. It was a pleasure to work with you. And we'll get in a little bit more about our working relationship, but I've known Stacey for about a year now, and we've helped clients and patients lose weight, and she's really the expert. I would go to her whenever my patients were having trouble or hitting a plateau, and so she's a wealth of knowledge, and yeah, really happy to have you on, Stacey.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is awesome. I can talk about longevity and health all day, every day.
Yes. And what's your background in health?
So, I became a physician assistant in 2002. So, a PA typically is 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of graduate school with your master's in physician assistant sciences. And then I started working at an immigration prison as my first job. And then I went to pain management and community health for a long time. So I saw a lot of homeless in downtown San Diego. And then eventually I started working in integrative care, which I always knew I wanted to do something in that realm. I just didn't know what that was. I just know it. I liked holistic things. I liked yoga, spirituality, that kind of thing. So I wanted to be able to incorporate that into my practice. And when you are working for big medical companies, it's pretty difficult to do that.
Yeah, and why is that? Why is it hard?
Well, so there's a business model set up, and you have to follow it. That's just the bottom line.
Yep.
There's a business model set up, and you've got to follow it. You've got to check all the boxes. And the boxes aren't necessarily bad. Sometimes I didn't agree with the boxes, but it's like, okay, did you get your physical done? Did you get your labs done? Did you get your stool test done for your colon cancer test or your colonoscopy, your mammogram PET? These are good things to have done, right? Mm-hmm. But if the patients weren't compliant, you were the one responsible for that. So that's interesting, right? Because that's the business model. And there's a limited time to do these things, along with trying to help somebody's medical issue, right? Mm-hmm. Which one medical issue it could be many things in one. They could have 10, but there's a certain amount of time you have in there, and then you've got to move on. So it's really hard to assess the root cause, if you want to say that word, around it to help somebody, right? So they've already have this issue. It's already cellularly in place. It's been moving in that direction for however long it's been, however long they've noticed, before they've noticed. And so you're there to help slow it down, maybe reverse it and improve it, right? We don't really tend to look at the medical field like that. That's one of the things I like about integrative functional medicine, the approach compared to what they call mainstream or Western medicine, which is now becoming more integrative in an idea, but the timing still isn't there to see the patients. So does that make sense? It's like, I'm going to come to you. You're going to hurry up and give me something, and it's going to make me better, and nothing bad is ever going to happen, and that's it. And that's it. Woo! Yeah. There it is. It's gonna
and
be better.
Taking their word for it, like that they're not sugarcoating their lifestyle, their daily habits, and really like taking a magnifying glass, really being a detective, and the psychology behind all of it, and it's just doing that in a limited time, in a 30-minute, 60-minute maybe consultation is just like the clock is ticking, and you're just supposed to have a solution right there. So what's gonna fix me, doc?
And that's a cash one. If you're in mainstream, you have 5 minutes.
Let's talk about the difference of that, like the cash and mainstream. Like in our pre call, we were talking a little bit about it, but yeah, just can you go over kind of the pain points, the difficulties of, well, that's one, as far as mainstream, you have a 5 minute consultation with them, but then also just how hard is it, or is it hard to really do what's best for the patient or the bottom line?
Well, yeah. I mean, so the visits are 15 minutes, but not with you, because they have to get brought in by the medical assistant, right? After their paperwork, do the blood pressure and all that stuff. And then you get in there, and then it's already time to see the next patient, right?
Basically.
So sometimes you spend more or less time with each person, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, when we're really, really thinking about it, even if we're just talking about blood pressure, that affects every single system in your body. Do you think I'm gonna be able to talk about that? No, I'm gonna be like, okay, did you exercise? Did you lose weight? No. Oh, what's your blood pressure? Okay. What medication are you taking? Okay. Are you having any side effects? No. Okay, cool. And then you refill it, and then you're on your way. I mean, that's wow.
Yeah.
That's not going to
Yeah.
cut it, right?
No.
And blood pressure there could be so many reasons why they have it.
Mm-hmm.
So many reasons. But putting the responsibility on us, ourselves, before we even go in to be seen, when we have an appropriate time, right?
Mm-hmm.
30 minutes to an hour is much more appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Weekly, not monthly or every 3 months like mainstream for
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So what is going on with you? And that takes a lot. That takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of journaling, meditation, and really assessing like what has happened. You don't even know what happened when you were in utero.
Mm-hmm.
You probably don't know most of your genetics unless it's something grand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, everybody has breast cancer in my family. But for me, that doesn't fear me, even though most of the females in my family have breast cancer. That has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And my genetic tests are negative anyway, which I knew they would be, because my lifestyle is totally different.
Yes, I heard this quote, and it was genetics loads the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Yeah, the epigenetics. And that
Mm-hmm.
can happen at any time. That can
Yep.
happen in utero. Genetics is huge for certain things, not necessarily for cancer. It's huge for mental health,
Mm-hmm.
your personality, your looks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Genetics is huge there, but most of those things are turned off and on all the time. Most of those genes. And there's so many variables, from the air to the soil,
Mm-hmm.
right? To the products that you're using. I mean, think about deodorant.
Yes, let's talk about it. Deodorant. What's in our deodorant, Stacey?
Aluminum, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And who knows what else?
Who
You know,
knows what else?
who knows what else? Who knows what else, right? Look at all the water bottles.
Oh,
I mean, there's just so much. And when
not
people say
mine.
glass, right? Yeah. So now I approach it, I'm like, look, everything's a choice, right? If I want to go and eat fast food, that's a choice I'm making, right? I'm making that choice. If I want to get into a car, that's a choice I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making that choice. So is it safe? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to the individual?
Do I
Is it,
trust the driver?
yeah, it's just so many variables. And that's why also mainstream medicine's hard, because these studies, they're just studies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're just studies. It's standard of care for a lot of people, but a lot of people know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's just way too much variable for me to say, you know, is anything not ever going to happen? No, I would never tell you that you may put this in, you might have an anaphylactic reaction if you put this in your body. I don't I don't know if you're going to have that. I have
Mm-hmm.
no idea. I
Yeah.
have no clue. I might get into a car accident. You have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
We know this much about it, and we know it's been studied on, you know, 2,000 males,
Mm-hmm.
and you're a female. So it's similar.
Yeah, we'll have to go over everything we talk about. We'll have to specify this is for females and this is for males because it's always going to be different. We're going to talk about, I mean, obviously hormones is easy, but if you just talk about weight loss in men versus women, like on a GLP-1, they're going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Um, which I bring up the GLP ones because you saw the Ozempic news about blindness, or there was some Super Bowl commercial on it, and I just see these ads, or not ads, these news articles pop up all the time about the GLP ones. And what do you think about this tool that is widely available at different ranges? I mean, you have the pharmaceutical grade name brands, you have the generic compounded versions. Like, what do you think about this tool in general?
I mean, I think it's a good tool if used appropriately, and if the compounding pharmacy that you're using, if you're not, using the ones from the patented companies, um, I think it's a good tool, but you have to be aware of what the tool is doing, and you have to be aware of what your risks are and have been before you even started, so you can weigh them both out.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been trying to lose weight, you can't, and you are a diabetic, pre-diabetic, cholesterol, whatever, fatty liver, I don't know, there's so many things that come along, then you're at risk for dementia, immune dysfunction, neuropathy, right? If you've got
Mm-hmm.
all these issues and you've literally tried improving your muscle mass, your protein intake, all the nutritional stuff that we know, your sleep, hormone health, then I think it's a good tool, and you have to be aware of all of the side effects that can happen, right? And again, that's a choice, because then if we're decreasing those other risk factors that have been in place for you already, then I would say it's a good benefit versus the risks.
For the amount of time that we have to spend with that patient.
Say it again.
I said, depending on the, like, with that time window that we have to spend with the patient, yes, this is probably going to be the best tool in that scenario. If we could spend all day with the patients and work on daily habits and circadian rhythm and meditation and alleviating stress and balancing hormones holistically and diet and exercise, like, yeah, we need to spend all day with these people for every day for like 6 months to a year. Like my wellness journey, I'm going on 3 years, and it's just like, and I'm still like, and I spend every second with myself. So within that window of time, yeah, I would agree with you. It can be a tool, but I always like to put it back on them, because most people, when you ask them about the diet and the exercise, and most people will say yes first. They'll say yes. I've tried. Yes, but
Yep.
how long? How long have you dedicated yourself to eating clean without cheating a meal? What is your definition of eating clean? And because, I mean, we could talk all day about food and what's in our food, just like what's in our deodorants and toothpaste and in our clothes and everything. Like, are you wearing all cotton? Do you sleep in an all cotton bed? Like, what's your pillow made out of? Like, all these things. When I did a toxic cleanse of all of my just household items, and then in addition to diet, eating mostly animal based, lots of grass fed organic beef, taking out all the toxic stuff, taking out all alcohol, just everything. Then I started seeing my markers, and which I think we could do, maybe go over just like a lab reading of my levels, because a lot of people are interested about what those mean. And I mean, obviously it's for men, but just not until I did all of that was I able to really see the benefit in my biomarkers, and just how, not even the markers themselves, just how I felt, how I've been living, the energy that I have, and I'm like, okay, this is doable long term. But during these consultations or a patient's intake, when we ask, how's your diet, your exercise? Oh, good. Yeah, I've been working on that. But we only have so much time to, okay, let's go to the next question and things like that.
And so a lot of people they don't want that. Even they don't want it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of this world that we live in, right? And so, I explain everything matters
Mm-hmm.
as quickly as I can, but a lot of people just don't. And so I can't fix that part, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just want this, and I'm okay, so I'm here working and doing that, but hopefully I will get through to somebody that, you do need to be looking at these things as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um I think especially to, yeah, even just the exercises is lacking, and that's just one of the big things out of the several things that you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
um and a lot of times too, I will tell females, if you're not doing what I'm saying with it at the bare minimum of the nutrition and the exercise, and you are 48 and you're not considering hormone therapy, you're not going to be successful.
Mm.
You're going to gain the weight back.
That's a tough pill to swallow. Yeah.
And I just say it really
Mm-hmm.
like that. If you really don't listen to me, you're not going to be successful. And that's just a small part that I can get out,
Mm-hmm.
right? So basically putting it back on the person to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you come back, I didn't lose weight, but I told you.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
And the why behind that, because a lot of people don't even know what's going on in their bodies during menopause, perimenopause, to even, and they go to their primary care, and their primary care is like, "Oh, everything's normal,
Yep. You just
everything's
need to
normal."
exercise more and eat less.
They're like, what? So I don't know if I told you this, but my mom, she had a total hysterectomy, and then was like thrown directly in menopause, and she went to the doctor, a female doctor, and was like, hey, I need something. Like my hormones are all out of whack. Like I need something. And the lady's like, well, come back. Not the lady, the doctor was like, come back when you feel like killing somebody. And my
That's
mom was
a
like,
great option. Mm-hmm.
and that's the other thing. With the labs, there's such a wide range. It's such a wide range. Like for guys, testosterone is 200 to 1100 nanograms over deciliter. It's like anyone's within range,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, except for me. But but you could be at 400 and be the same as 800. It's like, or deemed the same as 800 because you both are normal. So same thing with I've had patients that we send out for hormones, female patients, and they get their estradiol, progesterone, prenatal testosterone, TSH checked, and they come back and you talk to them and go over hormones, and they're like, oh, let me go talk to my doctor. And they go to talk to their doctor. My doctor said everything's normal. I'm like, well, what did Stacey say? Well, she recommended this, this, and this. Okay. So we need some type of estrogen, we need some progesterone, and then we need some testosterone. Okay. Well, my doctor said I'm fine. Well, how are you feeling? Oh, I have all these symptoms. Okay. So that, are we going off of the labs or what your doctor said, or are we going off of symptoms? And then, and mostly what it comes down to is not wanting to pay the money. So you're going to pay for it in some other way. You're going to try to cut the corners by doing a GLP-1, GIP, and because that's easy, that's I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as doing the work, because you know that working out can help with regulating hormones, grounding can help with hormones, meditation, reducing stress. There's so much accumulative cortisol in people's body they don't even realize how to get rid of it, and then some of them think they can just go to the gym and do it. But there's
Oh, yeah, that's another topic. Cortisol in the gym.
yeah. So let's talk about it. Take it away.
So, if you are like PCOS or 35 and older, or maybe some other crazy hormone imbalance, if you are doing long workouts, it's going to raise your cortisol for too long, and you'll gain more weight because it's gonna raise your insulin. Your insulin's not going to work correctly. So these things have to change. These things have to change.
Mm-hmm.
And time again, I mean, I have people right in front of my face that are 10 years younger than me. You know, they're 37, 38 years old, and they're overweight because they're in perimenopause, and they're doing all this cardio. And I'm like, why don't you just lift weights and shorten your cardio, do a quick HIIT workout, you know? And they're like, I know, I keep gaining weight. I'm like, yeah, I probably would stop doing what you're doing and change it up, because you're raising your cortisol for too long. And when your progesterone starts going down, you can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Bodies don't work that way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Stacey Sims has an amazing lecture on YouTube on this. She has like 2 postdoctorates in metabolism. And most of the research before her was done on men. Intermittent fasting, men. Works great for men. Works great for men.
Mm-hmm.
Females will come to me, I'm doing a ton of cardio, I'm intermittent fasting, and I'm not gaining, I'm not losing, I'm gaining. Okay, so you just said it yourself, so you're going to stop what you're doing because it's not working.
But I saw this video. They said intermittent fasting was good.
Yeah. So very different. Females have to have a certain amount of protein before either cardio or weights, and they have to eat it within more protein within an hour of exercise. Totally different than men.
I can go like 8 hours after a workout and be completely fine and not.
And you will make muscle. Mm-hmm. We will lose muscle.
It eats through your lean mass, right? Like it goes straight to that, and so you're not gaining any muscle mass.
Without our muscle mass, there's a slew of things that happen, but you are going to make less of your own GLP. We all make GLP when we eat, right? Mm-hmm. Medication that we're taking.
Well, some of us do. Depends on what we're eating. If we're eating McDonald's, we're not making any of that.
Yeah. And then you gotta keep and make the muscle, right? Mm-hmm. So, GLPs can be used very effectively. I've seen people go from diabetic to no more. I've seen their CRPs really high, down. Fatty liver, gone. Mm-hmm. Great. But they didn't do it quickly either. Because the quicker you're losing weight, you're losing muscle. And we know men lose weight quicker. Why? Because they have more muscle. So more muscle for females. Mm-hmm. That's the ticket. More protein. Mm-hmm. Less chemicals. Less hormone disruptors. But, sorry, I'm at the tail end of a cold.
No, you're good.
If your hormones are not balanced, your insulin cannot work well. Your mitochondria cannot work well. It's over 1,000 functions in your body. Mm-hmm. Okay? And if we're talking about menopause, the last day of your period, now they say 10 to 14 years before the day of your last period is when perimenopause actually begins. Well, heck, that's 30 to 35 years old for some people.
Mm-hmm. And they might have been dealing with PCOS early in their reproductive years. And how has PCOS, I read this study that it has increased significantly like 64% or something crazy that over the last few years that they're seeing it from women in their 20s to 30s. Like, why is that happening?
Yeah, because that's all of our nutrition, lack of exercise. The physician that I learned from, Dr. Felice Gersh, she's huge into PCOS, and the first thing she does is make you change your diet and exercise.
And what does that look like?
So for the first 6 months, she actually goes plant-based to
Hmm.
get out any triggers, like inflammatory triggers. Then you can start adding stuff back in. But as much as possible, that's what she does.
Interesting.
Because it's such an inflammatory illness.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Unless you're growing your cows, there's not going to be any inflammation in a good cow, right?
I would say the same thing about your plants.
Or good chicken. True. But for some reason, when I think people don't get enough nutrients. They're just eating, of course, processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and meats. So I think she just takes it all out, shoves the plants in there, and organic. She's huge with organic, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Takes out as much chemicals as possible, and then starts fixing the hormones and situating what needs to happen. But she's and the exercise and the sleep, all of that has to be taken care of first before she even implements hormones, which she also talks about for women that haven't been on hormones that are over the age of 60.
So
if they're not doing those things because they've been in such an inflammatory state for so long, like PCOS.
And what's mostly, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but for most women that are in PCOS, a oral contraceptive is like the first option.
Oh yeah, for mainstream.
For mainstream.
Yeah, they stop the ovaries from making hormones so that so some of their symptoms will get better, right? Because they're stopping some of the testosterone, and maybe if they have some estrogen going up too high, but that's not the fix, right? It's usually they don't have enough progesterone, and they need to detox correctly, which is where the nutrition comes in, their estrogen. And testosterone is interesting because it's not just made in the ovaries like estrogen, progesterone. It's also made in the adrenal glands. So you might have an adrenal gland issue and they just deem it PCOS, and it really isn't. But it's symptomatic like PCOS. But they throw it in that category because their testosterone's high, not knowing where it's coming from, the adrenals or the ovaries.
So an adrenal issue, is that also related to diet, or is that something else? Is that?
Oh sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or genetic, something that turned it up, right? Yeah. Sometimes I think a lot of this gets going in utero because a lot of these young ladies that have PCOS, you can really tell like when they're 10. And I do think that's mostly environmental that's turning that on for them. But you can tell when they're young because they usually already have a weight component to it, right?
In all the baby formula, you know what I mean? It's from like I'm so blessed to have the parents that I have because of how I was raised. Like, I was homeschooled. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She cooked every meal. Like, I'm like this anomaly in this culture where people are figuring this stuff out now, but like everything like she makes her own kombucha. She does like she's very she's just very like holistic in her approach to life. And when she was homeschooling us, she made like an obstacle course outside for us to like run and do our PE time and stuff like that. So being outside, being rooted in nature, like, you know, just not in front. We didn't have a TV until I was probably like in my, you know, early teens or something, or we weren't allowed to, like, TV wasn't just like a thing. we're so much more sedentary now as a society, and it just, I did a piece on this on my Substack where it's just we're living in that era of Wall-E. Wall-E came out in like 2008, where the people are in their recliner chairs just scooting around. Earth's a dumpster and they live in a spaceship. Like that's basically where we're at. And how
Yeah.
do we like turn back the clock by talking about it and having conversations like these where people have access to more of the information, know that they can take accountability and be active in all realms of their lives, and it's going to just pay dividends everywhere.
Yeah, it's really hard to get people, um, well, in San Diego, a lot of people have 2 or 3 jobs, right? Um,
For this lifestyle that they want to live.
yeah, yeah. So it's very difficult to say there has to be changes. I think the hardest people for me to make those changes when it comes to nature and exercise and sleep regulation, which I know you like to talk about, is night shift workers. Obviously, I know we have to have people work at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's really bad.
Oh yeah,
It's really bad for your health.
those were the hardest clients to work with when you're, asking what they do and getting a little background. They're like, "Oh, I work night shift," and they're just like, "Oh, like my soul hurts for them."
Yeah.
Because they're sleeping during the day. Their circadian rhythms all messed up. They're just, which is, royally affecting their metabolisms and uh, just things we take for granted that for us that don't work. I mean, I do have a night job where I work concerts on like weekends and stuff. And some of those I get home at like 1, 2 in the morning. And ways I combat that are I have the Roku blue blockers because at concerts there's all sorts of just stimulating lights and all this stuff. Okay, so I can prevent what's coming into my eyes. And that way, when I come home and sleep, like I also have a nighttime routine when I get home. I stretch. I'm not on my electronics. The TV's not on. Like low lights, red light when I get home, stretch, and then I fall asleep. But guess what? I'm still up as soon as the sun comes up because my circadian rhythm's dialed in. And the first thing I do, really try to do, is go outside, do some breathing, get the infrared light, get the ultraviolet, get the whole color spectrum, which that's a whole nother thing we can talk about is hang on one second. You there?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And that's a whole nother thing we can talk about, but like controlling the controllables as far as like, not letting that be an excuse. I like working that nighttime job. I know that there's certain obstacles to overcome, but I tell you, the blue light blockers, removing any other artificial light, as much as possible before bedtime, and then getting up as soon as the sun rises. And even though I might be a little, tired, as soon as I get like that fresh air, that sunlight, even if it's cloudy, some people are like, well, I live in Nashville, I live in so and so, like, it's gloomy all the time. You still have to get outside, even if it's raining, do a little cardio, do some stretching, some mobility, and and your body's gonna appreciate that way more than just leaning into that nightlife and eating whatever whenever, getting home and then turning on the TV and kind of like, winding down, being on your phone, doom scrolling. I have so much empathy for people that are going through this, but at the same time, I'm all about self accountability and really just owning the outcome, enjoying your journey. Of course, you have to have that sense of curiosity and kind of fun, like trying to like problem solve, like, and if you lose that spark and you just succumb to your to life, then you're gonna lose out on joy and your body's gonna really show it. You're gonna hear it in your voice, you're gonna hear it in their voice and their energy levels. Like whenever I was on the phone with these people, with these clients, I'm like, I could tell where they were at. I just started seeing like their biomarkers and just being like, it makes sense. You can
Yeah.
hear it. You can hear it all. But let's
Yeah.
get into I wanted to ask you, getting back to the GLP-1s, when you're recommending these, obviously there's the difference between the name brand like the Ozempics, Wegovy's, Manjaros, and Zepbounds, and then these compound options out there. Is there a difference that people should be looking out for when they're thinking about starting treatment?
Yeah. So certainly, if you're going to a clinic, or heaven forbid you're getting, I would never recommend just purchasing it and not speaking to a medical provider. That,
Reconstituting it yourself?
yeah, you know, you can ask for which compounding pharmacy they're using. You can call that pharmacy. You can ask for their credential information and certifications and all of that. So, because they are supposed to be monitored, they are. And if they're flying through the radar and they're not at the moment because of whatever reason, then, everybody's supposed to be getting the semaglutide powder from the same place that goes to the factories, whether it's patented or not. Patented meaning Ozempic, Wegovy,
Mm-hmm.
Mounjaro, Zepbound, right? And putting bacteriostatic water in there, and or a little bit of B12, right? So it should be doing the same thing with less cost. It should be GLP, semaglutide, or tirzepatide,
Mm-hmm.
in which there's more out now. Um, but it might not be. So that's why, especially if you're not being monitored by a medical provider, I definitely would never do it.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
No idea.
Do you get what you pay for?
Well, yeah, because if you're getting the real drug, it has to go through all of the credentialing in order for that specific powder to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
And the specific liquid, they have to show its efficacy, or else the batches are held.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to that point, that's why it definitely comes down to the provider that you're getting it from. I was super blessed to work with one of the top providers out there just because we would always check as far as we would request potency reports and certificates of analysis around these options to give us peace of mind that our patients are getting the best thing as close to, well, without the fancy name, without the name brand. And that would give me peace of mind that they're not just getting saline or lab or research grade, which you definitely get what you pay for. So shout out to Levogue Med Spa and Wellness. I know Stacey works with a few different providers that are super reputable. I worked with Levogue, and they're super awesome. You can use discount code StevieJ10 to get 10% off. So give them a call. I'll put their information in the bio below, or in the description. And yeah, because at the end of the day, like we would talk with patients that had tried other programs, and they would do a 3-month program for say $700-800 and lose 0 weight. And then
Wow.
they come over to us, and we're more expensive, and we would tell them, hey, that's because we work with one of the top compounding pharmacies in the country. They do X, Y, and Z potency reports, which is third-party testing. They get certificates of analysis around the powder of the tirzepatide or semaglutide, making sure that it's coming from an FDA-approved supplier. A lot of these places are not doing that. They're not even requiring labs. They're not requiring a doctor's visit. They're not requiring a prescription for these. So it is definitely like the Wild West out there, and I definitely want people to be very informed when you see a him and hers commercial like during the Super Bowl, or you see one of these other places that are saying GLP-1 for like $99 a month. It's like, do your due diligence. Do
Yeah.
your research.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to me because, by the way, people do that with Botox too, and
Mm.
filler. That's a scary topic, and people that aren't even licensed are administering it. So that's interesting. I find that very interesting because we know that anything no matter how safe we think it is, right? The safe word is very interesting for me. That there, at any moment, your body could have a reaction to it because of all the different variables we have, right? They can't be 100% proof for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you play with that and go somewhere that doesn't have the certifications, and you're not being followed by a medical provider in case you do have a side effect, or maybe you have
Mm-hmm.
a whole new medical condition in general that's not related. You
Mm-hmm.
might think it is, but it's not. And you keep taking it, making that new medical condition worse. You know,
Yeah.
what if you never checked your thyroid, you had thyroid cancer, and you're growing it with GLP-1?
Mm.
That would be terrible.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? Why
Mm-hmm.
would you not want to be informed?
Yeah.
Because we all know in our United States, we're very litigious. So your part in that is taking responsibility for choosing a place that's accredited,
Mm-hmm.
that does their homework to the best that they can.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, and then of course all those other things that we talked about with
Mm-hmm.
your health and assessing all the things that you're doing in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes work. It takes time. It takes work. I mean, I know I'm a parent and a wife and a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and the previous generation didn't that wasn't a thought.
Yep.
It wasn't a thought. I look at how I grew up. I grew up with home cooked food and tons of fast food and frozen meals. I grew up with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's dance class night. We're just gonna get, whatever, Burger King.
Yeah.
But tomorrow night we're gonna have a home cooked meal. Great, cool. I know what that's like. Having two kids in sports every single day
Mm-hmm.
and work in all the capacities that I do, right?
Yeah.
And I take care of myself. And I try and teach them everything that I can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's definitely tough to juggle all of it. Shout out to all the moms out there doing their thing. Um, how important is maintenance protocol for any medication out there coming off of a medication, but specifically like the GLP-1s, GIPs, because that's like everyone's question is, will I gain the weight back?
Yeah. So that's why I always tell them, frankly, if you don't listen to what I tell you, you're probably going to gain the weight back. Because it boils down to finding out as much as you can about yourself, your lifestyle, your genetics, right? And what needs to be changed. Of course, exercise, nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
sleep, like that's just the bottom of the barrel basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then of course we've talked about hormones.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not checking those boxes, you you're you're going to not be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You're the maintenance, you're just going to stay on it to keep your weight where it's at, but you're still not doing what you need to do. So, that brings me to that thing about the blindness, right? Okay, we've used these drugs for people. The number one cause of blindness is diabetes. We use these drugs for those people,
Mm-hmm.
diabetics. They already have the number one cause of blindness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's interesting because now they're saying people using it for weight are going blind, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Where's the correlation? Where's the cause and correlation? I want to see
Mm-hmm.
these studies. I haven't seen them yet to dissect them in any way, but my common sense tells me the people that are having blindness issues already had the issue before they were even on Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
They already had the artery issue from their medical condition that was in place for probably 10 years before they sought out a GLP-1 medication.
And they didn't change their lifestyle.
Right. So, that's why I say when we're litigious and we're just like, like, yeah, but what was happening 10 years before that? what's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff was in place. All that stuff was in place. It didn't just happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing that can happen quickly, right, is that you could get hit by a bus and become a quadriplegic. That's pretty quick happening.
Mm-hmm.
But these chronic illnesses are not something that happens quickly.
Yeah.
That's not, you can have an anaphylactic reaction quickly, right? A severe allergic
Mm-hmm.
reaction, because if you've never had it,
Mm-hmm.
just like with shrimp or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. But these chronic illnesses, these things have been in place. The cellular activity has been happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what my common sense tells me, right? I do need a little bit more information on wherever these studies came from. Of course, I I don't go on TikTok to look for medical information. So I go to my mentors, and even medical research articles. I will collect some, and then I will go to probably four of my mentors and ask them questions and how they read the studies
Mm-hmm.
and what they think about this research article.
Mm-hmm.
And then I make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not a bookworm. I never have been, but I love resources. As a PA, that's how I've always been. I was that way, I don't know, since I could remember, since a little girl. Resources are plentiful.
Mm-hmm.
You need to use all the resources that you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't a bookworm either, but the more I've gone deep into the health and wellness sphere, I've been reading books, and I mean the studies, I'll look at the studies on some things, but you always have to look at, the test subjects, like their health. There's so many variables, even in, controlled, evidence based, like all these different types of studies out there. You have to look at a lot of variables and take everything with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, we're all uniquely and wonderfully made. How one thing affects one person it might be something completely different. So with you, so like even with like supplements, like when I try different supplements out there, of course I had to establish a healthy baseline first. Otherwise, there's no real point in supplementing. I believe all of our what essential amino acids, all the essential vitamins and minerals we can get from food. So anything I'm trying to do to amplify, you have to have that baseline first. But even it like when I was trying like the methylene blue, I would start with like less than half of the recommended dosing, and then titrate up or work my way up, and then always cycling things, taking a break from it, being meticulous with notating and having a diary for each day, how I'm feeling, what's different. Because if you don't have something to reference back, it's really hard to say if it's working. If you never cycle off of it, then you're never gonna really know either. So it's kind of like the same thing with the GLP-1s as far as prescribing, starting off at a really low dose and seeing if you have that bad reaction to it, and then working your way up. But I really think the people that had the most success on those and are doing like some form of microdosing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell people, like, you don't need to increase it. What, you don't have to. You could stay on it. It's in the beginning. It's a time issue, especially for females. It's time. You need time, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how you said, it at least 6 months time before we would put somebody on it, right? Which nobody wants to take that time. Okay, so it's more of a time dependent than necessarily dose dependent,
Mm-hmm.
usually. So if you just wait until like the fifth or sixth week, you're gonna start losing weight. And then if you plateau, you get stuck, then maybe you could go to the next dose. But the protocol's there to follow, not because you have to do it. It's there because you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily the best way. Wouldn't you want to just lose weight slowly, lose less muscle, have less side effects, less incident of anything? And then and then that gives you time to start making your choices and your changes.
Mm-hmm.
And then which allows you to be extremely successful and maintain
Mm-hmm.
when you're done.
Yeah. If it's used as a tool like that, I'm all about it. Anyone who's trying to do it fast and for the wrong reasons, they'll it's tough because how do you speak to that? You obviously want to educate and say and maybe say that this might be a better approach, but most people, if they're set in their ways and they want to do it fast, they're gonna be in a world of trouble because at 4 months in they're at 10 milligrams of terzepatide and they're plateauing and they're like, I need to go up to the 12.5 to 15, and you're just like, this isn't how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. And that's where that money part comes into. It's like, well, I'm spending a lot of money, so I want to see this 30-pound weight loss. And I'm like, well, I can't help you with that because I'm just telling you from a health standpoint, not a money standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak to that. I can appreciate what you're saying. However, I cannot speak to that.
Well, I got a lot of free tips out there. So if you guys want to sign up for my coaching, I'll give you all the free tips. It's called sunlight. It's called walking. It's called calisthenics. You don't need any weights or anything. You use your body weight. Move around, build that foundation, learn the fundamentals. A lot of people, the other thing, which is why I don't really go to the gym anymore, is because people go into the gym and they just start lifting heavy. And they have bad mechanics, they end up hurting themselves, and then the chances of them ever going back are like basically non-existent. Once you hurt yourself in the gym, you're just like, it's not for me. Guys, we need to stop wanting results so fast. It's like, this is a lifestyle we're talking about. These are daily habits. Nothing good happens overnight.
Yeah, it's a daily thing. I like, if you ever listen to Mel Robbins, I love. And every single successful person I've ever spoken to, and that means I'm not talking about necessarily financial. I'm talking about all the different kinds of success. Yeah. Because I've always asked people that have experienced things that I would like to be or do in my life, questions, and they all say the same thing. It's the daily small things. Every day. That's it. That's the trick. That's the trick.
I love it. I mean, it's all those, what are they, the neat habits? Not the exercise ones, but the non-exercise activities that we do as that really make up the difference. Just being active around the house, doing chores, being outside, getting your hands in the dirt, pulling weeds. Like, we outsource so much stuff. We outsource our education. We have other people just teach us stuff. We don't try to learn stuff on our own. We outsource our entertainment. We can't entertain ourselves. We outsource religion. We outsource food, people making food for us. Gone are the days of like self accountability and taking action yourself, and it's really showing in our health and how people deteriorate so fast. I just want to help people know that this is like the solution's inside of you. It's right here, and it's here. It's and it's how those work together, and then everything's connected. Like, our gut health is connected to our mental health, and it's all you. Only you can do the hard work, which at first it might be hard, and then through those habits, it just becomes second nature. But that's why I really feel like these quick fix options, obviously from a business standpoint, It's like, you got to make money. But from a holistic point of view, if we really want the best for these patients, we talk about diet, we talk about exercise, and I just started including that in like my intake consultation. I just ask them how's their diet and their nutrition, and a lot of people would say nope, and some people would say, oh yeah, I work out. Okay, what are you doing for working out? Oh, I walk a lot.
Yeah.
Not gonna cut it. Like
That's
the perception of what is working out isn't gonna contribute. Like, cardio is great, obviously good for your heart health. You want to do it anyways. That should be a non-negotiable. But where you're really gonna see the results is picking up something heavy and putting it back down in the same spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I tell every single female. I mean, I don't just work in like medical spas. I work in pain clinics and I work in nursing facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so, by the way, so high glucose is the number one cause of dementia and Alzheimer's. High processed food, apparently, according to Dr. Amen, one of the leading psychiatrists in this country, the processed foods equals that by 400%.
Wow.
400%, you're going to get dementia or Alzheimer's, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for females, you're going to have 1 in 2 after the age of menopause will have a fracture. 1 in 2, unless you're doing all the things we need. We need the protein, we need the muscles, which makes the bone. So the protein and the muscles make the bone, and the certain types of exercises, right? The jumps, the sprints, quick sprints, short sprints, not sprinting for an hour. Like I said, it's shorter. 4 sprints with walking in between. That's like 15 minutes. You can do that on your lunch break easily. Easily.
And
you can jump 20 times easily.
Some people could.
So there's ways to work around it, right? Which is like my goal with people with injuries, amputations. So obviously the hardest people is going to be paraplegics, right? That's a different kind of thing, but a lot of things that we're seeing in the nursing homes now, I think if people keep going in this direction, most of it won't really exist anymore.
Have you seen those like vibration boards that drain like their lymphatic system and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they're cool. I'm like, that's I love the ingenuity of some of these products that are coming out. Like, for people that can't be active, you can still get that lymphatic draining, like just through like vibration.
Yeah, I had the owner of one of the hyperbarics places that I like out here in San Diego, which I love hyperbarics for. It's not just for wound healing, by the way. It's for anti-aging, brain injuries. Anyways, so that vibration board, he got that for his daughter. She was in a car accident and she had severe central nervous system damage. So he got her one of those as well.
It's so cool.
Along with the hyperbarics, which is really cool.
That's
so cool. Those are cumbersome. They're expensive. They're great. I'm hoping that one day it'll be a little bit more available to people than just people going there that have wounds, that need wound care. And I know there's programs for different veterans and stuff like that to go with brain injuries, but it is quite remarkable healing.
What do you think about methylene blue, as far as like, because there's some interesting studies around wound care, around brain health, cognition. What's your take on that?
No, I think methylene blue is great. I think there's a couple of people that can't take it, and I was trying to remember what that was, because it changes the red blood cells. G6PD, I think, is the illness that can't take it. And I think it's good for most cancers. There might be some that it's not good for. I actually know an expert in this that you could have on your podcast that he's a PMNR is what they call him, but he owns a pain management clinic, but he also has methylene blue.
Nice.
Significant expertise in it, and I think it could be useful for depression, mitochondrial function. I mean, I've been taking it when I got a cold. I never, ever, ever used to get sick. People always used to say, "What the heck with your immune system?"
Mm-hmm.
Everybody would always get sick, and I never would. But now that my hormones changed, even though I try and do all the things that I know to do,
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten a cold 2 times now since menopause. So
Oh,
I
wow.
know that I still need to work on myself because I'm not optimal yet
Yeah.
in this realm. But I start taking the methylene blue, and so I didn't get like fever or anything else that everybody else had around me.
Mm-hmm.
I get like the drainage, you know,
It's
and
manageable.
yes, it's manageable. I'm not even as tired. I don't get the full blown anything. So, I mean, like I said, I know I had a really good immune system
Yeah.
before. Um, I don't know why, and that brings me to another thought about trauma, because I always want to know what you've come across with trauma and nutrition and exercise and lifestyle and all of these things, because trauma starts from genetics in utero to experiencing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which turns our genes off and on as well as we experience trauma throughout
Mm-hmm.
life. And so that's an interesting ass twist to all of these things as well.
Yeah. Trauma is definitely an interesting one. I know that it was, facing some life events that had happened in my life through therapy, through counseling, was super helpful. And talking with an expert in that to a lot. And so there's this misconception around like therapy, especially for men, and how you're just supposed to tough it out, just push through it, go to the gym, and face your demons that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it to an extent, but I will say this, it's going to come at a cost of being able to have real relationships with people.
Mm-hmm.
Without talking about it, really letting down your guard and being vulnerable to discuss some hard stuff that happened in everybody's childhood or at some part in their life, maybe a really bad breakup later on, or just, seeing someone die, or, just whatever. It's never a bad thing to talk about it, and talk
Yeah.
about it with someone who is trained, who is a professional, not to, pat you on the back and say it's okay, like things happen, but to get together a game plan and how you can move past that, accept it, or forgive someone, or whatever practice, whatever method that they have that's going to work. Because again, like health, it's going to be different for everybody. How I move past my life events that happened that threw me into just terrible lifestyles, running away from things, you have to face it head on, and it's definitely okay to talk about it until you can forgive and heal what is being held in our body. Until I could go through that, like I had bad gut health, I had gastritis, I had leaky gut, and I was self-medicating through alcohol from the time I was 16 to 30. And I didn't know why I was a people pleaser. I didn't know why. I just wanted to party and have a fun time and run away from my problems. That
Mm-hmm.
was just my trajectory as far as trying to heal. Well, not really heal, but how I could just get escape. It was just my escape mechanism. And I was like, as long as I can make everyone happy, then no one's going to be mad at me. As long as I don't feel, so as long as I'm numbing myself with alcohol, then I'm fine. But then, boom, that hit me at like 30, where I wound up in the hospital from over drinking, and I had gastritis and leaky gut, and they're like, you can heal and get better. Your body will do that, but you have to stop boozing. Okay, cool. I can stop boozing. And then everything starts coming to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, I have so much stress. I have so much anxiety. Where is this all coming from? How come my relationships are suffering? How I don't know how to interact with people. I feel like I'm being attacked and taken advantage of. And I had to go see somebody. And ultimately, at the core of it, the root of it was I wasn't at peace with my creator. I had done all these things. I'd experienced all these things that put me at a distance from God. And until that was resolved, I didn't have peace. I didn't know peace. I didn't know what that was, that I was forgiven and accepted and loved by God. And that's my personal testimony. But I really think that everyone is disconnected from that, who is living in trauma or fear or in bad lifestyle habits and things like that. It really comes down to something you experienced and not knowing how to come back from that. And it's okay to talk about it. You're still a man. You're still a woman. You're still loved. You're still accepted. And if those people don't love and accept you because you dealt with some stuff, then you don't need them in your life. You know? You need to remove all that negativity out. That was my personal experience with being free from my stress and anxiety and traumas and life experiences. I'd like to go more in depth. Maybe I'll write a book.
Yeah, so I know trauma is so difficult because of how everybody learns to cope with it, and whatever their culture and whatever they were taught, fed, and how their brain is when the trauma happens, what happens after the trauma, how long is the trauma. I mean, it's just so much. And then, like we said, all the other things that play into it. And the other toxicity that you created during your toxicity has to go first. Right? And once you start clearing that out, it seems to allow you, for some reason, more time for yourself to reflect and learn how to receive that love again for yourself.
And to set healthy boundaries too, because I didn't know how friendships were supposed to be. I thought they were all conditional on the fact that I am pleasing that other person.
Yeah.
I hadn't ever been in the place where I'm just accepted for who I am. And I'm super blessed to have the relationships with my parents now that was rebuilt, because I was a rogue teenager, just like, forget you guys, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And same thing with like my siblings, with friends. And now recovery starts with you, and then it's just gonna have this ripple effect where you're gonna have good relationships, you're gonna be healthy, you're gonna be happy. And it's not even that we're chasing happiness, we're just chasing just not feeling less than, or not feeling sick, or not feeling depressed, you know. And all of that stuff is definitely, you have to face and face your past and talk about it with someone who can really help you get that roadmap. Talk to a coach, talk to a therapist, and make sure that they're not going to co-sign on your BS. Like, that's one thing my therapist, she told me, I'm going to have her on a podcast too. She's amazing. She's down here in San Diego as well, but I don't even call her my therapist. She's like a coach, because she's like, I'm not going to co-sign on any of your BS. Like, we're going to talk about it. I need 100% buy-in from you to be 100% honest. Same thing like with patients and clients. It's like, I can't help you if you're sugarcoating things or not being transparent. We're going to do this, but it takes two to tango. Right. And she's phenomenal. And she's, if anyone needs anyone to talk to, I got the #1 trauma therapist in San Diego.
Yeah, so give me her information because I like to pass it along.
Cool.
Like I said, I love resources.
Yeah.
So
Tanya
connection.
Ferguson. T Ferg. I'll send her to you. She's awesome.
Okay. Oh my God, no, that's awesome. That I heard that maybe some therapists have become more lax in that accountability for probably liability reasons. Who knows? Whatever it is, but I have friends that I know if I'm going down a rabbit hole, I'm going to call them because they're going to put me in my place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to call them that are going to be like, oh yeah, that are going to continue me. No, I'm going to call the one that's going to get me out of the rabbit hole and say, no, that's no.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Those are lies you're telling yourself. And she worked in a lot of AA circles, so she was really like, I had been sober for a year when I first saw her, and I did a 6-month program with her. It was once a week for the first 3 months, and once every other week, and then she was like, you don't need me anymore. And I was like, but this has been so good. She's like, you got this. And I was like, you're right, I got this. So she was really instrumental in putting those relapse prevention techniques in, so that if I ever felt like I was going to derail, then like she had already like put several mechanisms in place. So she's like really like proactive there. And yeah, I'm 2.5 years sober.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
God is really good. I definitely, like, it's not my doing. He's been super gracious to me, and the community that he's brought around me, other brothers, other friends, just other circle groups. You can't, we're not meant to isolate. Like, and we're meant for community. We're meant for relationships. And the devil wants us like isolated and alone and sad and soy boy and all that stuff. It's just like, we gotta break free from the bonds of sin. We gotta get out and talk about it. So anyone who's not wanting to talk about it, let me know, because that's what we do on this podcast. We talk about it.
Oh my God. Yeah, the group, the two big clinics that I go in now, not the nursing facilities. That's 500 beds when I go there. So that's of really sick people, but in the pain facility and the med spa that I go physically into, I am surrounded by humans that we literally serve each other and nourish each other every day, and it is safe for us to say what we gotta say, whatever's going on at that moment, what happened in the past that triggered something now, so that we can heal ourselves and the people that we're helping. And I have never been in an environment like that, like these two places before that I've been in. Well, one of them I've been in it for a year, the other one was about 3 years. And it is literally breathtaking. Like, I always thank God for them, and they do too. I mean, even today I was like, happy Valentine's, because this is what it's about. The true love right here.
Yeah.
It is phenomenal to be in that kind of environment, and it takes a lot of love from God to yourself to be in that kind of environment. Because you wouldn't put yourself there or find yourself there if you didn't find yourself worthy of that. And once I have that now, sky's the limit now.
Hey, just do everything you can to protect that environment and cultivate that, because for the patients that are there to be able to be in the midst of all of that, that's got to be so key for them, and as far as their recovery and healing. One thing we got to bring back is these outdoor facilities for healing, like people getting more more sunlight exposure. That I was reading all these. I think it was in France where they had these like rooftop, like places where the patients would just literally be out in the sunlight, and how they were just like there's natural remedies out there for healing, and I think one of the biggest ones is the sun. Natural. Not I have a red light, but when you have access to the real thing, it's like we need more of that.
That's how I always pictured seeing patients is outside. That would be so cool, but everybody always says, "Well, it's a HIPAA violation." Okay, well, I don't I don't know.
Everything's a HIPAA violation.
Yeah, I believe we're are we talking about healing or what are we talking about
We're talking about dollar bills.
here? Yeah, yeah, but
What do you think
but
about RFK in office? You think we're gonna have some changes to HIPAA or things like that?
you know what? I don't know. I didn't even think about HIPAA and JFK. I just thought about all of the other stuff, the vaccines and natural things that I know he really loves a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't follow politics well, but I happen to have a patient that's really close with him, and she has a special needs child, and she owns a group home with a lot of special needs.
What's the home called?
I don't remember what her home was called,
Okay.
but they work very closely together to get certain things to special needs people,
That's
and they see
awesome.
a lot of improvement in things like seizures, even just simple tasks of potty training, you know. Um, and so I am hopeful that we will have better things because of him.
Yeah, me too. I'm I know it starts with us. I know it starts with these conversations. I'm always skeptical when it comes to government, red tape, things like that, or yellow tape, whatever it is. But just tape in general, just anything that, hoops to jump through and um but yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens with big pharma and I mean people who have tried to do these the Wegovies and Ozempics, they've already dealt with the shortages or the price gouging that comes with those name brands. And so I think for the pharmacy, the compounding pharmacies and the other pharmacies that don't deal with those, but just in alternative medicine, I think that's a real chance for the ones that are doing it right to really fill that void, fill that gap for people who don't have insurance to get what they need or have access to. I mean, there's so many cool peptides out there and so many different. I mean, we're in 2025. Obviously, like if like we are so like we need drastic changes, right? We've been we're so far gone as far as our health that we need like new like innovative like techniques to try to get us back to baseline. Essentially, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
So I'm really like as far as like other peptides out there, like I mean, is NAD plus, is that a peptide?
yeah, I love. Well, it's I kind of throw it in that category in
Yeah.
a way. NAD. They didn't take that one away like they took BPC 157, CJC 1295, which I'm pretty sure one of the big pharmas is. I've been told that they're using both of those peptides to create a drug. Once,
Mm. Well, it makes sense because they work. Well, what do you like about BPC 157? Like, what would be, a typical candidate that you would recommend someone to get on treatment for?
acute injuries,
And that would
great.
be through injection for the acute injuries.
Yeah, usually you do injections. They worked really well for acute injury, anybody with a brain injury or major gut dysfunction. All three of those things.
Like SIBO or dysbiosis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it for all of those. Um, and then how you like to cycle, I like to cycle. So you could do that for 3 months and then maybe do more like a CJC 1295
Which
with
is
that's peptide is usually coupled with like ipamorelin, which is the precursor to growth hormone.
okay, gross. GF.
So together it's synergistic, that peptide with like ipamorelin, synergistic in helping and healing. So that's just in overall, maybe you have sarcopenia because your muscle was wasting for whatever reason. You're going in for a spine surgery. I would use it before and after. Brain injury, things like that. Definitely, definitely really good for regeneration and maintaining muscle health.
Yeah.
NAD is good for anti-aging, huge antioxidant. That's the other thing that I'll use with the methylene blue if I do feel a virus coming on. Or maybe my adrenals, I just feel like really depleted, had a little bit too much on my plate. And so I'll use it for a few weeks, the NAD.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, 3 5 days sub Q injections. So we always have to be careful with things like NAD growth hormone. Maybe the other ones too, the BPC 157 and the CJC 1295 with ipamorelin. Possibility could grow. A cancer might utilize that to grow because it increases our mitochondrial function and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So keeping up again with your preventative care and cycling. It's just a reminder, like, oh, okay, I completed this 3 month or 6 month thing. Am I up to date on my checks? The only thing that I'm not a stickler for with lab are hormones. I'm starting to get away from getting hormone levels for females. For males, it's not as complex. I still go by how they feel and their outcomes for specifically just for the hormone levels I'm talking about, not the other stuff that I like to monitor. Like cholesterol, that goes down when you go on hormone replacement. So, um, because a female in perimenopause, first of all, their estrogen's going to be all over the place.
Okay.
So you can get it 1 month it's going to be 40, the next month it's going to be 300. It's everybody gets so focused on, oh my god, what is it? So no, what is happening with you, what is going on? I'm going to implement how I know how to treat what's going on with you symptomatically, or maybe you have some other types of markers like osteopenia, bone loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
But along, like I said, with those lifestyle changes, but all the other lab markers are good. But yeah, hormones and perimenopause, and again, even in menopause, because let's say I give you 1 milligram of estradiol, I give the next person 1 milligram of estradiol. They both are going to absorb it differently. Their levels are going to be different. One will feel good at 50, the other person won't feel good till 100. So it doesn't. It's just not good to focus on where. But where's my levels? But where's my levels?
Mm-hmm.
This just distracts from you.
It makes
It's
sense.
back to you. What is going on with you? Are you sleeping better? Are you feeling better? Are you more productive? Are you able to gain muscle? How's your digestion? All of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so, yeah.
And
I
we're
mean, that,
and we're talking about when you're talking about female hormones and estradiol or progesterone, you're talking about bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Correct. Do you ever work with synthetic or no?
no. And so, compounding pharmacies, yes. Well, okay. Testosterone cypionate is made. That's commercial.
Mm-hmm.
You can get bioidentical testosterone for men too. but a lot of them just use the testosterone cypionate. It's effective. It's okay. It's good. Um, the pharmacies, commercial pharmacies, right? CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens,
Yep.
all them. They do carry bioidentical estradiol patches and gel and progesterone, not medroxyprogesterone or whatever the heck other progesterone. I never prescribe any of those synthetic progesterones.
Mm-hmm.
Those are bad. Those are the ones that cause risks that you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those are bioidentical. The differences I have been told. Okay, so a patch is a patch, right? You're gonna put it on. That's your weekly dose.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a gel, which is more expensive and usually not covered. But they are made from soy, whereas the compounding pharmacies that I use, they make it from yams. They're supposed to make it from yams. So, depending on where the yam's made, of course, may or may not be better for you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we'd like to think that it is. The one compounding pharmacy that Laveau does use it from organic yams. They're a very small company. They stayed that way on purpose because they like to make their hormones the way they like to make them. And they are not expensive at all. It does not cost a lot of money to make hormones, okay, or compound a hormone. They're cheap, which is weird why we got all derailed all of these years from female hormones causing bad things. In reality, what happens when we don't have them and they're not in place is what's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's really bad.
Yeah.
Is when we don't have them. So yeah, I never use synthetic hormones basically.
Mm-hmm. Can't you just eat more yams?
I know, I wish that would be. I wish, but the way it has to be delivered, transdermal
Mm-hmm.
estrogen.
Yeah.
Or I've never prescribed oral. I know some providers that still will, but I never do. I'm too afraid of the risks that come along with it. However, that one shows really good improvement in bone.
Well,
They all show improvement in bone, but the old school oral estrogen shows the most improvement in bone, but comes with more risk. Um, but and then progesterone is best as a capsule, but if it doesn't work for you either, then you can do transdermal progesterone. It just doesn't get as absorbed as well.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, there is a method to all of the madness of bioidentical hormones and giving you what you need for your body to function. Again, comes back to the individual. It cannot be seen in 5 minutes. Hormones cannot. They cannot. I mean, at the pain clinic, I've helped a lot of people, and I do have more of a time constriction there than in the medical spas, but they still give me more time than in other places because it's a private pain clinic. And I will tell you, a lot of women are getting off of their pain medications once
That's
I
awesome.
get them situated.
Doing the
So,
Lord's work.
I mean, and then the men, so for men, it's a slow trickle. And then once you hit 60, then it's a little bit greater, right? For females, it's a lot more crazy and drastic.
Yeah.
For them, if they've had a chronic pain thing that they've succumbed to, if they haven't done all the lifestyle changes, you implement that first. Testosterone will help them start feeling better, to feel stronger, get those muscles and joints strong again, so they can finally start living a lot quality of life again and not
Mm-hmm.
just opiate every day. Or trying different injections are great too, of course, but the opiate, which because it takes hold of so many things, and then it doesn't even make you want to try new things.
Yeah. Why do you think that there's an increase in testosterone for younger women in their reproductive years that we're seeing, like showing as far as increase of PCOS, and there's a decrease in testosterone in guys? Because I've seen some lab results for guys in their 20s, like 23, that are like 250 NG over DL. Like, why is it up in women and down in men?
Yeah, crazy, right? So our bodies respond to stress the opposite way
Hmm.
for some reason, right? So we're gonna make and pump out more testosterone. Could be the adrenals, not
Mm.
just the ovaries, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Because those get it they're both affected by stress. Of course, all the hormones are affected by stress
Mm-hmm.
significantly. Significantly. Insulin too, the thyroid also.
Mm.
So once that starts happening, it could go either way. We see PCOS, the increase in testosterone, but then there's also um, uh, a ton of females that have low testosterone. They just don't know it because they're not going into the clinic with well, I just don't feel like having sex, and I'm 25.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of patients like that.
Hmm.
Their sex drive is going down,
Hmm.
which is nuts in
Yeah.
young people. That's nuts. And then, of course, male, yeah, oh, way down. But it's not just the chemicals that's causing that. I do think, like you've said numerous times, the sunlight and the type of exercise. And the those electronics and the way that we're being taught in the educational system, I think significantly decreases the testosterone.
EMFs huge.
So, I mean, it is it's interesting to watch because I have teenage boys
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what their hormone levels are because they're 6'6" and 6 foot and tall and strong and super athletic, but they study hard, you know, to do all the AP courses and
Mm-hmm.
that. And when they were little, they were out. They were outside all the time
Mm-hmm.
when they were little. But now with their sports, they're indoors. Basketball, volleyball, that's what they play, right? And then they've got to be studying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they and they feel it. They feel it like I need to get out. I just need to get out
Mm-hmm.
because they were at least raised that way
Yeah.
before high school came along. That kind of forced them to be with electronics more and more indoors.
Mm-hmm.
At least they get their 2-3 hours of exercise every day with their sports
Mm-hmm.
at the least. But definitely, it's affecting them already, and every break that they get from school is super desired
Yeah.
so that they can get out and get that regular activity. And it's hard for me to watch because, I toy with, okay, they're successful. They're already successful. They know discipline. They know all of that. They know the game already.
Mm-hmm.
They got the game of life down
Yeah.
in this area anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
San Diego, and they already know and they're aware of what they're lacking and what their needs are when it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
They already know.
Yeah. I mean, that connection with your own body, like you got to listen to those signals. And just as far as their body's telling, we got to go, we got to get outside, and I feel so many people just end up ignoring those signals, or they don't know how to pay attention to them, or they just lose touch because we have so many distractions. Like ADHD is huge, and how many
Oh,
times people are just prescribed SSRIs when it's just like they're 12 years old. Of course they're
no.
gonna be all over the place.
Yeah, huge impulse issues with ADHD, huge focus issues because of the electronics and nutrition and lack of exercise. I mean, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dr. Amen will say, but again, kind of like Ozempic in a way too, right? If you've done all of that and you're going to somebody like him, you're going to do it because
Mm-hmm.
it costs a lot.
Yeah.
You're investing a lot of time and money into your kid when you're doing these things and ensuring that they're doing these things. If it still isn't happening and you try Concerta or something like that for them, and they go from D's to B's and A's and they're happy and they're no longer having impulse and fighting it and feeling stressed and like they're not good enough and they're doing well, that would be when it's appropriate. That would be when it's appropriate. But you
Yeah.
got to do first and rule all that out. You got to do it first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know the way I learn, I have to do things like I have to read it, I have to have someone tell it to me, and then I have to like do it myself. But my brother, he can just like read a book and ace every test, and I would always be like a terrible test taker. I'd always be like, oh, butterflies, I'm gonna go play with the birds, or that's just kind of like how my mind worked, and I always thought I was a bad student because I just didn't fit inside that culture for school. And my mom, as she was homeschooling us, tried to like work with me there. But once I got to high school and I went to like a private high school, it's like, and then I did 2 years at community college. I was like, this ain't for me. Like I just ended up like quitting school. But now that I've kind of learned, after all the years of like trying to figure it out, I've kind of learned how my brain works, and and now I'm back in school getting certified. But like, what teacher's gonna take the time with their students to figure out how they learn? It took me a decade to figure that out.
They can't, just like
Yeah.
in the medical, right? It's like, so they can't do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the parent has to really get in and dig in with somebody that different ways. You need different ways. You need different ways.
Yeah.
That's,
But the parents working 2 jobs, night shift, just trying to scrape by so that they can give their kids an education we're blessed to have educations. There's so many countries that don't get the educations or the chances that we get, but it's like, if the ADHD is coming from all the food dyes that are in our foods and the electronics and all these stimulants and energy drinks and caffeines. It's like we're not doing our best to set up the future generations for success, especially if we know that we won't have there's just not enough time to work with everybody in their specialized way. So it's like, how do we eliminate those things that do inevitably create, attention disorder, and yeah, how do we do that?
it's I feel like all those chemicals, it's like alcohol to little kids. It's literally damaging their brain. And um I mean, who knows how smart people really could be without all that stuff. I mean, it could be pretty wild.
I think so, with the amount of like technology and resources and information we have. um Obviously, I don't think it's past the point of repair. Like, obviously, through the amount of abuse I put my body through to be able to be here, like, that's a God thing. But it just shows that, you can change to be a little less of a mess up. You know what I mean? You can relearn, you can redevelop. It's never too far gone, but I definitely feel for the people that are older than me, and they're, because we had clients that are 60, 70 trying to just lose weight. Losing weight, I'm sorry, should be one of the more easier things that we deal with. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we make it hard for ourselves. We make it too difficult. We make it all these things when really it just comes down to movement and nutrition.
Yeah.
That's just me. I'm gonna ask you one or two things really quick, just what you think, just rapid fire. I want to be mindful of your time. I really appreciate you doing this, and we got to do more. I don't feel like we could talk enough about some of these things. Red light therapy.
Yeah, so I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that my mentors really, really love it.
Mm-hmm.
They really love it. They have their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I got one of these. Yeah, it has like infrared. It has red light. I typically do like 2 or 3 5-minute just stretch sessions in front of it. And on days where it's like, obviously, like if it's gloomy outside, I'll go outside for like 10 minutes, but then I'll do some red light therapy. And my hand was really messed up. I don't know. I think I was doing one of these things too much. And I ended up hurting this part of my hand. It was painful. I couldn't even like do a push up without it hurting. And after I got the red light, I just like did a couple sessions, and then the next day it's completely fine. Crazy.
Yeah. I kind of
Um,
red light sauna stuff. I don't have a gym membership, so
mhm.
a sauna to go to, but we were looking into different types of saunas, red light versus steam and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about heat. I know there's a lot of people into like cold exposure and things like that. I think cold exposure is great for like cognitive function and things like that. But as far as like muscle repair, I think we just need heat. And my body just really thrives in saunas, red light therapy, obviously sunbathing. I think being tan is one of the most underrated things ever. We just need more sun.
We never,
More sun, absolutely. And we're in San Diego, so it's like we don't have an excuse. But we're gonna be sun maxing this summer. It's gonna be great. What?
full time.
Oh, nice. Yeah. As far as cold exposure therapy in women, I know it's different for guys, but I've seen some of these influencers, health fitness women jumping into ice tubs, and after that last podcast you sent me, I was just like, oh, maybe that's not the best thing for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Females, we need a different temperature.
Why is
What
that?
is Dr. Stacey saying? Was it 55? Because then I think we start to have muscle atrophy. I think it was. Do you remember what she said?
It was something with either lean muscle mass or something detrimental to muscle. Um,
Yeah.
I'll have to go back on it, but I thought it was kind of fascinating. Just another one of those things where, it's good for some people, it's not good for others, and we just hop on these trends and start doing these challenges, and it's just like, wait a second.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, and then lastly, I know you talked about it with PCOS, your mentor going straight to plant based to do an elimination diet. What do you think about the carnivore elimination diet? Is it different for females and men? Or is it the same? And would you recommend the plant based over carnivore? Because I did the carnivore elimination diet, which helped my leaky gut, and then I started introducing other foods.
Yeah. So I have a huge group of mentors that are in the low carb keto um, department, and they have resolved a lot of medical conditions, including cancer with keto diet, right? Mostly carnivore, but they have some plants in there. I really, really think it comes down to each person. I think you have to see which one's going to work better for you. I think that each person responds differently,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same forever and ever either.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it works for you for 5 years, but then there's a shift, and maybe you need to switch it for a while.
Mm-hmm. I
So
def. Sorry, go ahead.
I do think the microbiome needs fiber, but the brain needs healthy fat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good source of cholesterol, and that's really like the main thing is quality.
Yeah,
Quality beef, like getting it from like, I mean, there's not many local farms. I think there's like one out in Alpine, there's one up north in like Fresno, but doing quality beef, grass fed, organic, that's going to be the way. Like there's so many, not only like essential amino acids, but essential like minerals and vitamins in beef, to where you would have to get this the right amount of protein in plants. you gotta eat a lot of plants to do that.
Yeah, I'm not vegan. I eat fairly decent amount of vegetables. Um, I eat as much protein as I can a day. My goal is 120 because I weigh like 125 and I'm 5'4", 5'5". But um, it's kind of hard for me to get in just because I love the smell of meat cooking. It's one of my favorite smells, but it has to be really good, like really tender and mixed in with a bunch of flavors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I eat processed foods, but I don't eat a lot of them. Like I had a little bit of the pasta because I made grass-fed meat sauce for
Mm.
my with like mushrooms and
Mm-hmm.
zucchini
Yeah.
and some noodles,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had salad, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a fairly simple meal, but I had some processed. I had noodles. They were supposed to be organic from Italy. I don't know, from Costco, but who knows, right? I don't know. I'm not there when they're made. I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, I try and get good quality meat. My husband and I have gone to different places throughout San Diego to find like our favorite meats and chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's another issue. Chicken. So,
Eggs. What's in our eggs? Yeah. Um. Yeah. It's tough. But I definitely agree that we do need, like, I felt as far as really good when I was eating seasonal organic fruits, typically first thing in the morning. Throughout, I was doing this fruit till noon, kind of, experiment. One of my favorite podcasters, Noah Ryan, he came out with this protocol for fruit till noon, and he was relating it to like if our metabolism's like a furnace, and the first thing you're doing is throwing a log on in that furnace. It's like it's gonna take a lot of energy to break that log down to digest that. So, and I've always done the intermittent fasting, which obviously has worked for me. And I was able to do that till like, I think like I would do like a black coffee from the time I woke up till like 4 in the afternoon. And then I would eat just massive amounts of protein. But I always felt like a little depleted. I mean, my body would use all of it because I got a good workout in, and so that protein was utilized. But I feel like as far as like gut health and gut microbiome, it's been the best when I was incorporating a lot of fruits, seasonal and organic. Doing a lot of dates, um, and my parents have fruit trees, which is another reason why I was able to have access to it. A lot of people, you got to go to a farmer's market or Jimbo's, Whole Foods, Sprouts, and even then, it's just like how organic is organic. So, but yeah, fiber is definitely good. I'm just not a huge veggie person. I like cucumbers, tomatoes. I like herbs. Like I love cilantro. I could just eat cilantro. That's super good for you. I'll do a lot of raw onion. But I've been doing the raw liver and blue steak, like just a quick sear, and I don't know. I've never felt more alive and able to get more out of my day. But again, this is not medical advice for me. This is just what works for me. I just thought it was kind
yeah.
of interesting that the plant based elimination diet for women in PCOS or dealing with PCOS, and there was some good results there.
Yeah, Dr. Felice Gersh, she's amazing.
Okay, I'll have to
She's
check out her work.
in Irvine, but she's an integrative OBGYN.
Okay,
So I
cool. And
followed her.
then after like what 3 months you start incorporating, or 3 to 6 months you start incorporating other
Yeah,
foods.
yeah, that's what
I'll have
she
to check
said.
that
Yeah,
out. Yeah, I've been following Dr. Sean Baker, who's just like carnivore fanatic. I don't know if you've seen him, but yeah, this dude's like he's been heading up the carnivore movement, and I think it's cool. Like there's guys like Saladino, who try the carnivore and then they move to kind of like an animal base. But I think as far as getting healthy fats from good dairy, just the raw milks, cheeses, I get if you're not somewhere in the same state and milk's getting transferred across state lines, you probably want it to be pasteurized and things like that. But if you can source it locally, raw's the way to go. Um, cool. And then, yeah, it's really all I had for us for right now.
All right. I know my phone's gonna die.
I know. Well, perfect timing. Again, thank you for your time and for jumping on. Let's do another one soon. Do you want to just shout out like where people can find you really quick? If yeah.
So, well, I do telehealth for La Vogue, and then eMed Spa is in El Cajon. It's another med spa, and then I am also at a pain clinic in National City, Winover Pain.
Awesome. So they can find you there. I want to thank my friends at Good Source Coffee. Don't go to Starbucks. Get build a local connection with your community and get some good source coffee if you're in Escondido. Thanks, Stacey. It was a pleasure. We'll talk soon and hope you have a lovely Friday. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yay! Happy Valentine's. Bye.
Bye.